All right, we are Jonathan Sarine, Ben Pearl, and Mac Housewright, and this is our presentation for system security. We're Group 7, and we chose to cover a case that happened to Dollar Shave Club. It was a login breach that happened on the 21st of March in 2018. And what happened was there were some threat actors that were able to obtain or they were able to log into various e-commerce accounts of customers of Dollar Shave Club. And they did this by obtaining email and password combinations from some other source. And when they got them from another source, it was probably in the form of hashed passwords. And they were able to crack those passwords and get the plain text that they could then enter into these accounts and access the information of those customers of Dollar Shave Club. So we're going to talk about some various ways that they could have done that, and hopefully be able to recommend ways to prevent that and mitigate that situation.
The first method that we think, and we say we think because Dollar Shave Club probably wisely didn't publish their discoveries on any method used to break into their system. Once password database information was gained from their system, the attackers likely tried a brute force attack, the purpose of which is to gain a large quantity of plain text passwords. Basically, it functions by taking a whole bunch of known hash algorithms and as many possible password combinations and permutations, and it will just slam through all of them. Now, because this requires them to get the information first, it actually happens offline. They don't need to do it online and try it against, the password login. And it utilizes the GPU, the graphics processing unit, rather than the CPU, because the graphics processor has faster computing power. Now, because this is basically just trying all possible combinations, it's usually used with other attack methods for more optimal results. That's because sometimes it just takes some time, especially as users start using more complex passwords, more secure passwords. It starts to take longer and longer amounts of time to be able to hack just one or two accounts. However, because it's slamming through all possibilities, the brute force attack will always succeed. It's just a question of whether or not you have the time to devote to it to actually wait for it to succeed. You slide.
So as Ben was saying, one way that one thing that can make a brute force attack more successful and a lot faster is if users are using weak passwords. As we have more complex passwords with greater password lengths and a variety of characters, such as like symbols and numbers and upper and lowercase letters, as we use combinations of those, it becomes a lot harder for even a GPU to be able to crack that password and be able to generate all the possibilities of that could be used with those passwords. This usually ends up being a deterrent from the attacker to use a brute force attack, and maybe even attack in general. If the passwords are very strong, then obviously there's gonna become a point where it's not worth it anymore to try to crack that password and try to gain access to that account. And on an individual level, it makes your account a lot stronger. Next slide. Another method that we think might have been used or could have possibly been used in association or in addition to the brute force attack is the phishing scams. Phishing scams use social engineering techniques where they play on the expectations of the users. So we think that in this case that maybe the attacker used a fake Dollar Shave Club email or survey or whatever it might have been to trick their customers into giving the attacker their login information. Obviously, this makes it very easy for the attacker to be able to access that information because they can just get that information and log in. Next slide.
All right, so we know the threat actors who perform the attack were able to get into these e-commerce sites, and from there they could go about to where all the customers that would normally log on were able to go, and they were able to get the name, address, and the last 4 digits of the payment card. That's what's been released in an email that the tech team put out, or the PR team put out, customer relations, what have you. They sent out an email letting customers know that this information may have been exposed to the threat actors, and they sent it out to every account. That way, these people could go and change their passwords on other sites and prevent these same threat actors who gained access to their Dollar Shave Club e-commerce account from gaining access to other accounts they might have on the internet using the same email and password combination. And as we reviewed, the passwords cracked after getting the data could be used to get into other accounts, and for that reason, it's a good idea to not use the same email or the same password rather for other accounts, and that's a good thing for companies to let their users know to not set up a password that's been used in a different account previously. Another thing that the tech team did was they were able to figure out what IP address was making these attacks and block that IP address from continuing to try and breach into the data.
As a result of this breach and the discussion that we've had on it, we'd like to recommend a couple of general precautions. The first and foremost would be, of course, to educate users about strong passwords and about strong password security, and to include this information in the registration form, such as including a requirement in the registration form logic to use passwords that are comprised of lowercase and uppercase letters, and also numbers and special characters such as the ampersand and the pound sign and the exclamation point, as well as informing the user that, you know, it's nice if you build a strong password for our site, but then if you go and use that same strong password for a whole bunch of other accounts, it takes away from the strength of the password and it makes you more vulnerable to attack. Now, along this line, another recommendation to companies more than users, but it also affects users, is for companies to consider more advanced cyber intelligence services to help them to identify phishing attempts, to help minimize the effects on potential user targets. And the other side of that for the users, obviously, is to inform the users, following along the lines of strong password security, of making sure that you navigate to the website from a safe method, such as using the direct web URL or only following approved links that you're sure of. And finally, moving away from the users precisely, and moving more towards the corporate side of things, protecting passwords for users, is to make sure that physical facilities are secure and that employees dealing with customers to help with password resets or account unlocking, training them so that they know that, yes, it's nice to be nice and help a customer, but it's far more nice for them to make sure that you stick to the strict password security measures so that these social engineering attacks aren't as effective. Q slide. Now, after all this has been said and done, we've talked a lot about this attack, about the different potential causes, about the positive company reaction, the potential damage it has done, and the risks that can be mitigated in the future, as well as the risks that might have been taken advantage of. Our hope is that this information can be used to prevent breaches, and also, if not prevent breaches, to mitigate the breaches on many different fronts. Obviously, the best thing that can be done is to educate the users to use strong passwords and to not be frivolous with giving out their password to any which site, and also to make sure that they use strong password security that don't use the same strong password for multiple different sites. Thank you for watching our presentation.